I have no problem admitting that. And when I was doing this, I did not have that foresight. I automatically assumed that when I messaged Steph with all this proof before I started posting, that she would take it and be like, damn, all right, I'm going to do right. Am I naive? Probably, because it took her, 6 weeks to reach out and be like, hey, I'm ready for the proof. That's a step right there.
Does anybody not find it weird how Drew's side piece is apparently so close to Stephanie now? All buddy with Stephanie. Feeling bad for her. But has literally been trying to monetize off of Stephanie getting cheated on. Not one time has Drew's side piece shown her face. And I mean, yeah, you can go live, but anybody can go live. We all know that it's Mama D. And does anybody else find it crazy that sitting there, developing a relationship, a friendship, a relationship, talking to Drew, getting close with him, enough to the point where you have screenshots of messages between y'all? I mean, this is going really far. And then you're going to message Stephanie trying to be friends with her. The dedication is pretty crazy.
The most shocking turn in this already grotesque TikTok drama wasn't Jenkins cheating on his wife in a motel where their 5 children cried in the background. And it wasn't Stephanie Jenkins screaming at her daughter live on TikTok while thousands watched. It was when Drew's own side piece, the very woman who had spent weeks flaunting receipts of her private conversations with him, suddenly reappeared online, not to provide more evidence, not to finally expose him once and for all, but to tell the public, the same public she had invited into the chaos, that they needed to stop criticizing Stephanie and leave her alone, as if the chaos she helped ignite could be magically erased by one half-hearted plea for mercy. It was a stunning betrayal of logic, a pivot so strange that it forced audiences to ask, what had Stephanie whispered to this woman behind closed doors? What bargain had been struck? And why was this same person who helped destroy Stephanie's dignity now positioning herself as Stephanie's unlikely defender?
I hate that there's no middle ground. It's either you have to be against her or you're crazy.
Case filing. Let's step back. On trial here are 3 intertwined figures. Stephanie Jenkins, the self-proclaimed resilient mom of 5, whose TikTok empire thrives on motel room live streams, emotional outbursts, and sympathy bait. Jenkins, her longtime partner, whose wandering eye and alleged cheating have fueled endless pub plots, and now the side piece, a faceless figure who claimed she catfished Drew to expose his instability, but in the process, destabilized Stephanie's already crumbling life. What was once framed as a scandal about cheating has metastasized into something much darker. Manipulation. Stephanie's decision to keep her children in unstable conditions while monetizing their suffering. Sympathy scams. Crying on live, hinting at leaving Drew, yet always staying. Exploitation of children, using their pain and even their silence as background props in content. Enabling dysfunction, remaining with Drew despite overwhelming evidence of betrayal.
I was really starting to feel bad for Stephanie Jenkins. I thought she was really going to leave that man, take her kids, and finally do something better for herself. But no, 2 days later, they're back to their same resilient Jenkins ways. Her King Daddy Drew is out doing gig work, while she's in the motel room with all 5 kids, like they didn't just crash out on live the other day. And the only reason I was even feeling bad for Stephanie is because she is the bread maker in that family. So at the end of the day, she was the one taking care of all of those kids. So for just a second, I thought Stephanie might just put the kids' well-being over Drew's. But no, that is never going to happen. Especially after she looked at her daughter and said, you have to get used to being disappointed. That was absolutely heartbreaking.
The charges in this cultural courtroom are not about private heartbreak, but about public accountability, the monetization of dysfunction, the reckless involvement of children, and the false narratives that keep audiences hooked while real lives suffer. Exhibit A. One evening, viewers turned into a TikTok live expecting another round of proof. Screenshots, messages, maybe even audio. Instead, the side piece appeared faceless once again, but with a new script that stunned her viewers by its tone and message. A script that seemed less like exposure and more like damage control for the very woman she had been tearing down. She spoke quietly but firmly, her words a dramatic departure from her previous aggressive stance. Direct quote: I am not trying to be her best friend. I just think people need to stop bullying Stephanie. If she has no one in her corner, she's only going to stay with Drew.
I just wanted to kind of talk about my most recent post. I'm not going to respond to each individual comment on that post, but I just wanted to make my position clear about everything. I guess the number one thing is it's gone from me saying, hey, we need to stop the bullying and stop the nasty comments, to, oh, now you're Stephanie's best friend, which is not the case at all. Two things can be true at the same time. I don't have to agree with anything that she said or done, which has been some pretty horrible things, y'all. But I can also say we need to tone it down. Some of this stuff is getting really ridiculous. I don't really know what is going on with the situation. I will say I gave her proof. She knows that I was talking to him, and she fully believes it.
That statement landed like a shockwave because only weeks earlier, she had been delighting in her role as Drew's exposer, carefully releasing proof of his unfaithfulness and painting Stephanie as blind, weak, and complicit. Now, she asked thousands of onlookers to lay down their criticism, effectively reframing herself as the voice of compassion. By withholding the content of their conversation, the side piece essentially became Stephanie's new enabler, silencing accountability at the precise moment when public pressure was the only force demanding better for the kids. It was as if the torch she had once carried for truth was now being used to light a path away from scrutiny, a path that allowed neglect to continue unchallenged while framing criticism as cruelty.
I don't know where she's going to go from here. My hope is that she gets it together. And if she is ready to get it together, we don't need more people bringing her down. I don't know if she's going to actually get it together. She could just turn around and stay with him anyways. That's a complete possibility, and I'll eat my words at that point.
Exhibit B. Hours after hinting at solidarity, the side piece doubled down, insisting she wasn't backing Stephanie, but that Stephanie deserved space to change.
She does need to stop posting. That I can agree with. Is she going to do it? Probably not. You don't have to have mercy for her, but guess what? The babies are still there. You could call her every horrible name in the book, but the children are still there.
Her tone was almost pleading, as if she wanted to recast herself as the sober mediator in a drama that had spiraled too far. She told her audience that people needed to step back, that perhaps Stephanie was on the brink of transformation if only the mob would stop circling. Direct quote: I'm not excusing her, but if people stop engaging, she'll stop posting. This comment was framed as a solution, a gentle directive meant to calm the storm, but it came across as detached from the reality audiences had already seen play out for months. This was not only naive, it was dangerously false. Stephanie had never stopped posting when engagement dropped. Instead, she escalated with even more erratic displays. When her numbers dipped, she yelled at her children on camera, staged dramatic breakups with Drew, or crafted new sympathy acts to reignite attention. She built her following on volatility, on the guarantee that when quiet threatened to set her in, she would light another fire. The side piece's theory wasn't a solution. It was a smokescreen, a way of shifting responsibility from Stephanie to the very audience trying to hold her accountable. Reflection. By proposing disengagement as salvation, She rewrote the rules of accountability, effectively arguing that silence was safer than critique. But silence in this case is complicity because silence leaves children trapped in motel rooms or school roles, unseen and unheard. The suggestion to disengage was not neutral, it was actively harmful because without the spotlight, Stephanie's patterns of neglect would flourish unchecked. In trying to offer Stephanie space, the side piece was in fact offering her cover.
And I don't want to hinder that if it is. Well, I have receipts also, so calling me a liar. Anything I've stated, I always come with receipts. I agree the best thing for her right now would be to take a break. I hate that there's no middle ground. It's either you have to be against her or you're crazy. I can state my opinions, but eventually she's going to have to get out of that motel. She can be a horrible person, but you could also not add to it.
Exhibit C. Critics reminded her of her own role in creating the circus. She had baited Drew, flirted with him knowingly, and then publicized his betrayal, setting into motion the storm that she now claimed to regret. Observers remembered how she once bragged about her ability to lure him in, how she curated her receipts, and how she chose the most dramatic moments to release in order to maximize the spectacle. I admit I was part of the problem. I just wanted to expose him for the unstable man he is. Her confession came across as half apology, half justification, as though she wanted to be praised for admitting fault, even as she distanced herself from the consequences. This admission reveals the hypocrisy at the heart of her pivot. She inflicted harm, then tried to wash her hands off it by reframing herself as a reluctant truth teller. But exposing Drew didn't just hurt him, it broke Stephanie further, and by extension, harmed the children most of all. By choosing to involve herself, she amplified the dysfunction and handed Stephanie a new excuse to fixate on Drew's betrayal rather than her own parenting. Now, by silencing critique, she doubles down on that harm, attempting to erase her responsibility by calling a truce she herself never honored when she was fueling the fire. The irony is unbearable. The catfish who claimed to act for the truth now campaigns for silence, undermining the very accountability she once demanded.
I feel like her coming to me in the first place after all this time is her first step towards changing things. I could be completely naive, but I can't in good faith just keep talking negatively about the situation. I want her to do better. I think everybody wants her to do better for the children. And I'm just going to hold out hope that at this point, that's what she's going to do. If this is her turning point, we don't have to be supporters, but we can simply be kind by not saying the nasty things. Giving your opinion on the matter, pointing out bad things that she's done is perfectly fine. But the blatant bullying, as far as like, oh, let's zoom in on Stephanie and talk about what she looks like in this video, just even small things like that is what could be stopped. I do not believe that the pregnancy rumors or any of that is true. I think somebody is just making that up. I don't have any proof of that being made up. I just don't think that's accurate. But I just want to make it clear, like, I am not backing her up. I'm not saying that she is a good person. I'm not saying she's going to do right. I'm just saying this could be her turning point. And until I see otherwise, I'm not participating in the negative. Because if she really does want to leave, start over, do better for her children, I'm not going to have a part in the bullying. Because if she doesn't have anybody in her corner, she is going to stay with that man. Now, I'm not making excuses for her. But if she has nobody else in this world to talk to, She's going to stay in that bad situation to just have that one person.
Her earlier self-righteousness collapses under the weight of this reversal, leaving only the impression of someone who murdered recklessly and then sought absolution without truly facing the damage left behind. The fallout. The consequences are already unfolding like a slow-motion sentencing, as though the gavel has already struck, but the punishment plays out in drawn-out sentences that feels both inevitable and tragic. Stephanie remains in the motel, still filming cleaning videos with dry mops, still claiming her drafts are old while deliberately uploading curated misery. She stages household routines without substance, presenting to the camera a false sense of order while the chaos behind the lens only deepens. Her children are still without visible school supplies, still appearing unsupervised in lives where toddlers wander from bushes while their mother's attention stays locked on the camera. Their absence from school settings, their lack of stability, becomes more glaring each day as the online drama overshadows their basic needs. Drew, emboldened by Stephanie's refusal to leave, faces no consequences beyond internet ridicule. He moves through the storm untouched by accountability. His betrayals normalized in real time as Stephanie continues to prop him up within her content.
Can somebody explain to me how Stephanie Jenkins is able to afford Instacart, but yet she still struggles to not live in a motel shelter? So this was in her latest video, which she says she's posting only her drafts, but I think it's sad the fact that she's Instacarting while Drew Jenkins is Ubering or Uber eating to his fourth baby mama, Sierra's house. Imagine crying broke but tipping strangers more than what you're willing to invest in your own kids. Can somebody also tell me how it is and why is she mopping the floor, but yet there's no water on the mop or on the floor? She's going to caption it and tell us that, because she's not ready to talk to us, but she's going to caption it telling us that there's water there that we can't see. I mean, I can't see it. I zoomed in, but what about you?
The side piece. Once a potential whistleblower has disarmed herself by switching alliances mid-trial, effectively removing one of the few external pressures that could have forced change. The fallout is layered and heavy. Children dragged deeper into instability, their schooling and safety compromised, audiences confused about who deserves blame, torn between empathy and disgust, critics silenced by accusations of bullying, left questioning whether their voices are cruel or necessary, and the broader TikTok community numbed by yet another example of dysfunction packaged as content, a spectacle that leaves everyone watching both complicit and exhausted. Judge's analysis. What we see here is not just a family scandal, it's a case study in influencer culture at its worst. A living example of how dysfunction becomes currency when broadcast through the right filter. A side piece catfishes a father of five, not to protect children, but to generate clout. A mother refuses to leave him and instead weaponizes the narrative for content. Children become background noise in motel live streams where adults argue over loyalty and betrayal. And when the chaos spirals, the very person who poured gasoline on the fire dares to lecture the audience about bullying, as if critique and accountability are the same thing as cruelty. This inversion of responsibility blurs moral lines, leaving viewers confused about whether calling out neglect is an act of malice or an act of protection. This case reflects larger patterns. TikTok's algorithm rewards dysfunction. Audiences become desensitized to neglect when it's packaged as entertainment. And children, always the children, become collateral damage in the relentless pursuit for views. The very design of the platform encourages oversharing, thrives on rage bait, and normalizes voyeurism into private pain. Each share, stitch, and reaction video builds a feedback loop where outrage and sympathy both translate into monetization, while the actual well-being of the family at the center fades into background noise. It is influencer culture as performance art, But the stage is built on motel carpets stained with instability, and the applause comes at the cost of childhoods, of missed school days, of young voices silenced so the adult chaos can't keep paying the bills. The verdict. And so we reach the verdict. The evidence is clear. Stephanie continues to exploit dysfunction for content. Drew remains unchecked, his betrayals normalized by her refusal to leave. And the side piece, rather than protecting the children or holding the adults accountable, has now joined the mercenary of silence, urging the public to look away while real harm festers. My ruling is this: silence is not compassion, and disengagement is not accountability. To stop calling out Stephanie is to abandon her children to a cycle that has already proven toxic. But this courtroom is not mine alone. It belongs to you, the jury of TikTok. Do you believe the side piece's sudden pivot is genuine, or is it yet another manipulation in a story built on endless contradictions? Do you think the public's criticism hurt Stephanie, or is it the only pressure keeping the reality of her neglect visible? Leave your verdict in the comments below, because in this trial, the jury is the audience, and the children's future depends on whether silence or accountability wins.